I've been working on a big end of the year review of every 12 volt, 200 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery that I've had the chance to review. And right before I was going to work on that video, LiTime offered to send me one of theirs. So I'm a little bit more excited. I quickly did multiple discharges. This is what this video is about. But if you're looking at buying this battery, it came out to around 2,350 watt hours. It's a little higher, a little lower, and I plan to do even more discharge tests and write them down. I've done a lot of effort to make my discharge tests fairly uniform, and I think that I'm also going to have to calculate if there's any offset in the end, which I'll do that in the big video. Unfortunately, I feel like LiTime's app isn't very good. It hides a lot of information, doesn't show the numbers, and it requires an account and a login. That's a bit of a deal breaker for me. But as far as the battery goes, in this video I found out that it actually holds a nice amount of capacity. Not the 2,560 watt hours it claims, but almost none of these batteries seem to. In the end, you just got to know what it actually holds and divide the cost to know the dollars per watt hour. And since the price is always changing, if you can find a good deal to where the dollars per watt hour is a good price, this is a pretty good battery. Well, here's my test of how I came to that conclusion. I was just wrapping up doing my big discharge tests on my 200 amp hour batteries when LiTime offered to send me this. So I'm going to get through this really quick. And I figured this might be a good chance for me to show how when I first get a battery, if you don't let it balance charge, there's a chance that you don't get your full capacity out of it. But then as you balance charge and use it, usually by the 5th full discharge, you get more watt hours out of it. Now these 200 amp hour batteries are rated for 2560 watt hours. And if they only get 2300, that's still pretty good. And at the end of the day, what matters is the price. So you take the 2300 or whatever result you get, and you divide the price by that, so you get how many dollars per watt hour. And if one of these ends up being cheaper, then that's obviously the winner, because all that matters is dollars per watt. At this moment in time, pretty much any lithium iron phosphate battery, their construction is pretty good. It's just a matter of how they space out their cells, so how much power you get. Now this one happens to have a Bluetooth functionality, and other apps like Overkill Solar and Smart BMS haven't been updated to use this yet. Now, I like Overkill Solar because you don't need to sign in. Yeah, it's not coming up. So maybe one of these other apps. Maybe one of those other apps will start working with LiTime batteries. Unfortunately, with LiTime, you have to log in, and then the actual app itself doesn't really show you a lot of information like normal. I want numbers. I don't want your little mascot. It's not very useful. I want to know the delta between voltages. So that's unfortunate. But as we can see, this battery's at 52%. And I always do an actual measured discharge instead of just trusting the output capacity, because the BMS is just programmed to say that it has 2560 watt hours. But it might only give, let's say, 2160 watt hours. Well, let's get this into the solar panel shed, the solar panel building, and let's get it connected up, and hopefully we can get that extra kilowatt hour into there by the end of the day. We can do the first discharge. I'm going to specifically be not giving it much time to balance charge. Now, unfortunately, since I can't tell from the app what the states of each cell is at, I can't tell how unbalanced it is, but normally these come from the factory a bit out of balance. So the first discharge test might only be something like 1,900 watt hours, and then as we discharge and let it balance longer, it can go up. Now there is another thing that I'm noticing. some batteries that I know the cells are balanced on, it still accumulates more watt hours per charge cycle. So I'm curious if there's other chemical things going on that after, say, 50 or 500 cycles, you might see trends. Well, let's get this into the solar panel shed. The company that makes the LiTime brand, they sell under many different brand names, and they always use these handles which I actually like quite a bit. It's like a commonality across their battery brands. Now, it's also funny. They are so picky. They don't want you to ever show. I have a stack full of the other brands right off camera, but they don't want me to ever show those because they're all really insecure about how many brands they sell. The same battery underneath different brands. So I'm not going to show those, but in the upcoming 200 amp hour video, we're going to be seeing how different are they really. Now that we have this connected up, let's just turn it on. See if we get any power. We should. Nice. The sun's still coming up, so we should be able to get, once it gets up to the full 300 watts of power feeding in, we should be able to get that extra kilowatt hour into that battery. It's been a few hours. Put a few watt hours in there, charging at 232 watts. Again, I wish I could see the cycle number. This app is too minimalist. And they got their little slogan. I bet they have one made for each brand, but I don't like that you have to log in. I really don't like that. All right, everyone, it's the next day. And this is charged with only 4 watts. That means it's charged. Time to get this thing home and start discharging. Finally got the LiTime battery home, and I still had to finish up testing out one of the other batteries because I have so many batteries I'm testing. And now I got home, it's the end of the day, the other battery finished discharging. I say, let's get this into our cozy living room where I hear the Tulilol theme. And let's bring her over here, hook up the current meter, and then start discharging at about 300 watts while we run the TV sound system and play Final Fantasy 14.
I'm gonna lock it to 60.
Yeah. 144 FPS is too much for my eyes. It's like a starburst.
Yeah, I think there's like something else.
Now it's interesting that this battery actually came with a few extra washers. I don't need that at the moment, but it is kind of interesting. I've never seen another battery do that. I'll give her a current meter, and we hook it up. This will probably take 2 cans though. Oh wow, I was actually able to do it. I was doing mortar work today, repointing, and I guess I still have some of that elevated strength. Let's get our system going. Now, sadly, because I'm doing so much work on fixing up the buildings, I'm not home as much to use up the battery. So this will probably be 2.5 days or even 3 days for me to discharge this. It's been 2 days. I've just been too tired to really game very much, but we finally got about 2 kilowatt hours used. And sometimes with batteries on their first discharge, they cut off at too high of a voltage. We're at 12.37 volts now. We've used 2,074 watt hours. I've connected up my backup battery, so even if the battery turns off its BMS, this will keep the data. And what's funny is normally companies are very picky about the brand, so I just have these with the non-label side, but it's LiTime from the previous collaboration, so that's actually kind of funny. It works out pretty well. And these, I've been using these for a lot of things. Probably another hour or so, and this will be done. We let it sit overnight, and it's gone back up to 12.77 volts. We're at, I can't remember what A means, but 2160 watt hours. This power meter has an issue in the programming where the numbers overflow. So I think that means 180 something amp hours, because I think A is 18, B is 19, and C would be 20, so 200. I'm just watching some YouTube videos, so I'm keeping the power draw about 200 watts, and we've gone down below 12 volts. We're at 11.97. I was trying to see if would this BMS give out anytime soon, and well, unfortunately, the app is useless. I think, okay, well, I want numbers. I want numbers. It says there's another 10 amp hours left, so let's see if there really is. And if not, my computer and setup might just turn off. Okay, so it started beeping, turned off my computer, but of course after the Windows update it's taking forever to shut off. So we got to 192 amp hours, 2298. 2298. Going to write that down. So that is about, I believe, something like 89% or 90% of the rated capacity. So we're missing 10%. Let's see if charging it again, doing another discharge test, can help with that. Now these reviews, because I have to lug them like a quarter mile each way to and from my solar shed, my solar building, they're getting quite the vibration test. I think this brand of battery will hold up pretty fine for that. I also like how it's a lot more compact than other brands. And now I built this battery cart to work with any of the sizes of any of the brands, because some of them have a wide girth to them. But what's interesting is I built this battery pack a while ago, and I oversized it a little bit, and it just barely fits 2 5-gallon buckets. So it's actually become more useful than anything. Well, let's get this into the battery charging area. I need a good name for that building over there. I need a good name for it. Well, I didn't have my phone with me when I went to work, but this fully charged, and we brought it home. Let's hook it up. It's actually been a day. So let's see when it burns off that immediate charge, because I believe when you take a battery off of a solar panel and use it, there might be an extra few watt hours on there. And if you let it sit for 36 hours, then it might have a little bit less of that foam at the top of the power curve, as you might call it. Okay. Okay, and now I'm going to use this for, well, about 2 days actually. It's actually been 3 days now, and we're nearing the end of the test. We're already at 2315, I'm going to say, over 2298. Let's see how far this will go. It's still powering my computer quite well, but I'm going to disconnect the computer and have it run that directly. My system's booting back up on grid power. Now we're pulling less power. Interesting. I'm getting ready to go and the TV turned off, but at 33 watts, we're only down at 10.5 volts. The inverter should start beeping pretty soon. We're almost going to reach C0, which in this case, whoever programmed this messed up the data for the amp hour reading. So what it should do is after it goes from 99 to 100, it should shift over, but it then goes to the ASCII. So A is 18, B is 19, and C would be 200. So right now it's 100 and I think 199. Yeah, 199 amp hours. Amp hours and watt hours is a little bit different, but I think watt hours is more important. So we're 2383. That's almost an increase of 100 watt hours. Now, if I were to turn this on, it would beep. Yep. No. And here we go. Ready for the third charge. That is a good improvement. And we might be able to get 2400. If we do, I'm going to like this battery because that's a little bit rare. It's plugged up. 10.85 volts. Very nice. We're going to hit 100 kilowatt hours pretty soon. Especially if I keep moving about 2.5 kilowatt hours to the house every other day. Apartment every other day. Well, we'll just let that sit for 3 days, maybe 4 days. Give it some time to balance. But I'm starting to think that even with balancing, oh, my Band-Aid. Even with balancing, it's not, there's still some more improvement to be seen just from using it. Because some of these, they can be balanced, but then as I use them, they still increase in capacity. So there might be some measure of improvement that can be gotten by the 10th or 20th time of fully discharging and charging. I finally have a day to do projects, and it aligns with the end of the third discharge. We've been using the battery for the TV and the computer. Now let's look. $20.58 watt hours. Actually, I probably don't even need that. I'm just going to run the television. So that'll be about 80 watts. I'm not going to run the computer on this. I hope we can get to 2400. Wow. Down 10.44 volts. 2354 watt hours. That's a shame. Still though, that's a little bit more than the other batteries. So it's been a little bit because I realized I forgot to turn on the big switch to charge the other things. But that works out because it's finally time for Solar Sunday again. And now that we have the 3 test results done, this is proving itself to be one of the more high capacity batteries that I've tested for the 200 amp hour 12 volt series. Because they all seem to test around 2100 to almost 2400. I haven't seen one test 2400 yet. And this is the one that's tested the highest, I think. I still plan to do some more tests with it. But for the most part, I think this is a pretty good capacity for a battery. Now, it's a shame that the Bluetooth app is really minimalist and you have to log into it. I don't like that. I really don't like that. The other ones, you can use the Overkill Solar app and you can just open them up without a login. And I really don't think anybody is going to be messing with your batteries. I don't think that's going to be an issue. And so with this one, sure, needing to have a login, that's maybe if you had this on the president's yacht, you know, you wouldn't you could keep it secure, I guess. But I feel like I don't want to have to log in. I would like to be able to have a phone that is so outdated. I have an iPhone 5C in some drawer that can always access these batteries. But another thing too is just the fact that it doesn't really display a lot of the information. I want to know the balancing characteristics. I want to know the exact numbers. Give me the numbers. And instead of just having their character saying all good or whatever, that's not really that useful. You have a Bluetooth app and you squandered it. Oh well. So I would say don't pay extra for the Bluetooth function. It is nice to be able to know the voltage though. But as for the capacity, it has a little bit more capacity than the other brands I've tested. And so that's a little bit pleasing. So I'm going to test a little bit more, and then we're going to do finally a cross analysis over all the batteries I've tested. And please look forward to it. Well, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and have a happy Solar Sunday. See ya. Oh, this is heavy.